This meeting is being recorded.
Yeah, it
Yeah,
is.
that's how it goes.
Your background is crazy
It is a 16th century Italian court, actually, that I AI generated for
for this call.
a pitch deck. Remember Barbie, the movie Barbie? I, Eugene Kotlyarenko, hereby request Josh Ovi for collaboration with the Internet is Dead podcast. Please, Josh, be a guest on the podcast. Well, why would it say we miss you? Like, I'm supposed to be
Like
on
all of
it?
us
No,
miss
like
you.
we miss, yeah,
Oh,
we
yeah,
Like
miss
yeah,
you.
the
Josh.
internet misses you.
Well, okay. Oh, yeah, the internet. Yeah, yeah, sure, sure.
Mm.
We, all of us here on the internet, we miss you, buddy. We want you back.
Yeah, I do remember that
I
movie.
remember that.
Right. And we all remember it because it was such a huge hit. It made over $1 billion. It was a global phenomenon
Mm.
off of the famous iconic toy Barbie. They made a
I heard
movie.
it helped a lot of people.
It helped. It helped a lot. Yeah.
It
Yeah.
did.
It helped many in many different ways, of course. And so, in the wake of that, the company Mattel, which owns the intellectual property of Barbie and itself went into the movie biz with Barbie, um, thought it would be a good idea to make way more movies since they made a bunch of money off that one movie. And so there was a craze. There was a pitching to Mattel craze. There were articles, if one recall, I recall an article about Lena Dunham doing a Polly Pocket adaptation.
Oh
Ooh,
my
that would have been
God.
good.
Right,
She would have done that right.
hey, you know what? She still might, these things they take time, and I know Lena loves to brew the pot. She loves a long brew. And so I was pitching to so that I said to my agent, I said, get me in the room with fucking Mattel. Get me in the room with Mattel. I got a great idea for Magic 8 Ball. I heard they own Magic 8 Ball. Oh,
Really?
we can do funny talk to her. We can do crazy monkey paw Magic 8 Ball. We can do funny horror. Let us do funny horror with 8 Ball. And so I went there. They said, "Oh yeah, we have you in mind for something interesting." And I said, "Could it be Magic 8 Ball? I mean, that's what I'm thinking." And they said, "Well, we already got someone on that." All right.
Did they really?
Yeah, yeah, something like that. Oh,
Wow.
That's crazy.
See,
Someone beat you to it.
we
the
already
good
got.
ideas, they get swept up like that.
I know that's why.
It really is a competitive industry.
And also, like, I think as an artist, you definitely can't be like, and definitely it's an industry for sure. It's a biz. But as an artist, I'm not saying I'm an artist, but as someone who comes up with original ideas, which I'll give myself that, you really can't be like possessive of your quote unquote
Mm.
original ideas because other people are going to have them too. It's just in the air. And if you
Mm.
really have original ideas, then what do you care? Oh, someone else
Yeah,
did it?
true.
Okay, you'll just come up with some other idea. Anyway, to make a long story the length it's supposed to be, which I guess is long, they said, well, what about this other one called Jack in the Box?
Oh, I could see that. I
Oh,
could
I
And
see
I,
you on
I
that.
right, I said this is an ancient toy that you can't. You certainly didn't invent. Mattel doesn't date back to the origins of Jack in the Box. They're like, that's true, but we do have like the rights to the current one or whatever, or to make one or something. And I said, okay, okay. So anyway, this is part of an opening sequence I had where you like tracked. It starts with a kind of naughty jester in a Bavarian town who is pointing out the kind of like foibles and flaws of his like feudalist society, and then eventually the people in power gang up on him and stuff him into like a little baby coffin, and then this is part of the opening title sequence where like you see the world through the eyes of like the POV of the Jack inside the box. And so I created all of these different like historical moments in this kind of like POV perspective, in usually powerful arenas like an Italian court where he ends up like killing the like people and stuff. Anyway, didn't happen.
It reminds me of the movie The Evil Within? Like that's kind of the visual I'm
oh,
I
associating.
that's good.
don't. I don't, but it
You got to
sounds
see
good.
that one. It's a deep cut.
No, I
A
like
director
that.
like you, someone like you should have seen that movie.
Oh yeah, well, you're gonna find out on this conversation. I'm incredibly flawed. I'm not exactly what people expect me to be, and et cetera, et cetera. We all
But you actually have one thing that none of our guests have actually had before. And you want to
have
know what that is?
male pattern baldness.
Besides that,
Well,
besides
we didn't
that.
even think about that, but we'll
Yeah.
add that to the
Actually,
list.
let me just say, like, I don't even know if this, I think male pattern baldness is like the implication that you're slowly balding. This is just like kind of full blown baldness. It's
I
not.
think yours is just like a hair pattern, a
Mine is
curl
a hair.
pattern,
Mine is a haircut. Yeah,
Ooh.
sort of.
mine isn't a pattern. It's like a, what do you call that? Like a patch or something. And mine is just like you rip it off. There's no
Yeah,
like
yeah.
Yeah.
piggyback or anything.
Yeah.
Anyway, go ahead. Let me know what makes me unique. I
Well,
love that.
actually, what makes you you
Uh-huh.
is that you're
Uh,
our only guest who has succeeded actually in having Josh Ovalle on your podcast.
Oh, right. Yeah, of
Yes.
course. That was our initial connection.
That was our initial
yes.
connection.
Yes.
For anyone listening, Eugene actually liked our reel, and I was like, hey, let's talk.
Well, your reel was about Josh, and
It was
I'm
about
Yeah.
Josh.
I am a Josh supporter. I'm a Josh stan. I'm a Josh super fan. Everything
We
Josh,
love that guy.
We love him.
me love him too.
I was thinking that we could like do this interview and then we could post it on Instagram. We could make the caption at Film Quaker, we
I
have your
understand.
father in custody, reply in 24 hours or he dies.
I understand that this is merely like a stepping stone. This is the
Yes.
lily pad to getting Josh. I am being exploited and used
Yes, this is
for
a
A little
seed.
bit, yeah.
yeah, for a noble deed. I understand. I mean nothing to you guys or to the listeners of the show. This is
Mm,
Yeah.
merely just like yeah, I'm just like a toy that might lure Josh into your evil lair, into your sewer.
yes.
Yeah.
Yes. We're
That's kind
actually
of
going
most
to
of our guests,
turn you
honestly.
into a spy in this episode, a spy, where then
Mhm.
next time you're going to know exactly what to say, what to do. It maybe even a letter of recommendation.
Right, right. Well,
Ooh.
I don't want to put in any more work than this conversation. I'm
Well, that's
willing.
fine.
I'm not writing a letter of recommendation.
That's this is the letter
Oh
Well,
recommendation.
yeah, perfect. Yeah, and I'm
Yeah.
happy. I'm happy to spend time talking about Josh. I love Josh. I um loved working with him. I am his biggest cheerleader. I want him to always make more stuff. I want him to
mm,
be on as many podcasts as invite him. Of course, I'm not a manager, so I don't know what
yeah.
strategic business decisions he needs to make.
You
Um,
kind of seem like a father to him in a
You
way,
do.
though.
I'm not.
That's the vibe I got.
I wish I saw him more. There was a period where like I'd be like driving by his house sometimes. I'd be like, "Hey, what are you doing?" Like I just passed by your house, and he'd be like, "Oh, nothing, come over." So maybe a couple of times I came over there, but I mean, the thing is, when you're like dedicating your life to something creative, right? Like artist, creative ideas. Wow, cool. You end up, I think, that becomes the conduit for most of your social interactions or a lot of them. And
hmm
so when I'm like, hey Josh, I'm shooting a scene tomorrow, like wanna be in it, wanna come on the Zoom. I mean, you guys saw the code, so you saw
Oh,
Josh
yeah. Oh, we
Yeah.
saw that jump scare, that Josh
yeah,
It
jump
was
yeah, that
scare.
Josh
crazy.
jump scare, yeah. And as the Bitcoin scammer, um,
mm.
the coin
Also,
bro.
we loved the code. It was great.
Oh,
It was
thanks.
awesome.
Yeah, it
Thanks.
was
So
really
that
good.
working is an excuse for me to connect with people that I love that otherwise might be shy or busy or whatever or doing other yeah. What are the other options? You can be shy, you can be busy. Why would you not want to hang out with Eugene? You could be shy, you could be busy, you could hate Eugene. I don't think Josh hates me. You could be, what are other things that people do? You
Like
Someone
adopt
you
could
could
be like,
adopt a
things.
yeah.
pet. You'd be, but that's busy. That's just called busy. Busy kind
Yeah.
of incorporates a lot of human behaviors. Huh? Like I'm eating.
Mm.
Or you could say like, oh, I have a dinner plans with someone. That's kind of busy, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Someone could be like blackmailing them to not work with you ever.
That's true.
Yeah.
True.
Or
That's
they could have
Hollywood.
a one of
That's
those
Hollywood. That's just nice,
things in your
nice
That's
try,
ears.
us.
Diddy. That's just nice.
Yeah.
Diddy.
Like what's the thing when you like a Bluetooth earplug, but then it's like reverse, so then you can hear the conversation at dinner, and then like you're talking to someone and we're listening on the other end, telling you what to say.
Cyrano de Bergerac kind of Cyrano situation. It's a one of these. They have a bunch of dating shows like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't even begin to name all of them, but there's a lot. Like
Hey, that should be your next movie, I think.
Ooh.
a dating show. Well, I am really fascinated with making like a reality TV related movie.
That'd
Mm.
be good.
Yeah, like something that's kind of has sophisticated, like something about like a heel, like a character that's like universally like hated, and then like like makes a comeback in one of those like heroes versus villains type seasons,
Yeah.
or like is like riding, or someone who's like riding off of their reality TV show fame like 10 years later, and then like has to kind of like revise the narrative or is thrown back into like the spotlight, but it is like, I don't know, has completely been destroyed by it or something. Anyway, clearly I haven't figured it out. Clearly I haven't figured it out, but you have these things living inside of you, and so you just kind of
Well, let
wait.
me throw this idea at you. This is
Go
just an
ahead.
idea. Now that we got a director on the call,
Yeah,
this is
yeah,
just
go
an
ahead.
idea I've been thinking about. You know the show Big Brother?
Of course.
So now what if
I've worked with one of the great stars of Big Brother, Frankie Grande.
Oh God,
Oh,
don't even mention him.
oh my
Hi.
God.
I'll
I'll
freak
talk.
out.
Oh
Brittany's
yeah,
an
you'll freak
Ari
out because he's
stan.
so talented. Yeah, I love him.
Dude, he's a funny guy. We
We
saw
love
him at
him.
we saw him
Rocky
in Rocky
Horror.
Horror.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
He
nice.
was
He was funny in
insane.
it.
It was so good.
He's a really like memorable live performer. He like
And
he
his
like
internet presence is so hilarious.
as a
Like,
as a live performer, he's very giving in this way. He like sucks up all the air for 1 second. This sounds like a bad thing, but it's a good thing.
Yeah.
no.
Sucks up all the air for 1 second, and then he releases like 10 times more air than there was. And you're just like, wow, there's so much to play with because he like took a second to grab the attention, and now everyone can kind of work with that. He's a
Mm.
very generative sort of spirit. Yeah, that was really fun working with him. I mean, and one of my big regrets is that like
It was hard to breathe on set.
not at all. I am pretty neurotic and oversee like many details of all of my films from conception to release. And I thought I like looked at the subtitles for Spree really closely, like the captions. And there's this one great improv that he does where like Joe's character Kurt is like, should we go to this junkyard? And then he goes, let's fist, as a way of saying like, let's party, let's fist, like, which is like very comical. And then the captions like transliterated it as let's fest, like festival or something. And I find that really sad and
That's
annoying.
a big fumble, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
let's fist is like literally that could influence the culture. Like if that was the subtitle, people could start saying that as a way of like
Yeah.
affirming a choice.
Yes.
Like I actually hate let's go, like the way people do that. I wish we
Yeah.
could replace that with let's fist.
We can start that. We
Let's
can bring
do
it
that.
back.
We could,
Yeah.
yeah. Why don't
Let's
we'll
fist
tell
on let's
anyone
fist.
listening,
Let's
like, why
fist.
don't you do that? Okay. Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, good.
but anyways, what I was gonna say about Big Brother, right?
Yeah, go
So
ahead.
I was thinking we get a Big Brother house and
Mhm.
like we do the whole thing, but it's all internet people. It's all like people who know how to use the internet,
Didn't they
right?
try that? They never tried that?
No, they never tried that because everyone they get on
Really?
there is dumb as rocks. Okay.
Yeah. Well, they have different ranges of people. I mean, I don't know about Big Brother necessarily, but depending on the show, they have different IQ ranges and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, and different styles. I mean, there is probably like a kind of Overton window of like what's not allowed on those shows. So it is more like in like the normie stratosphere, but like
Mm.
you do have ranges in that normie stratosphere spectrum, whatever.
Well,
Yeah.
thank God you just said Overton window at least once because we needed to knock that out once in the call.
Oh yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
what is that? What does it mean? That just means that this is like the thing that's like allowable within the context of the culture, right? And in this culture we're talking about is reality television. I should probably write down that movie or The Evil Within, huh?
Yeah, that's a good one.
It's good.
It's like maybe not because it wasn't finished completely. Like the guy died while making it. So then
That's not the one that like was made by like the Getty, the son of yeah, it is.
it is.
No,
It
it
is. Yeah.
is.
It is. It is. Oh yeah, it's on my watch list. Check it out.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
should
Yeah,
watch it. It
It's
messes with my
kinda like
brain.
one of the Getty children, right? Yeah.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
it was really good.
Really, really, yeah. I've
Yeah.
always wanted to watch that. Yeah, people say it's a kind of one of those, what do you call a fringe kind of what do you call the underground? No, it's not really what
Like,
fringe
I don't
underground kind of masterworks.
know.
Sort of yeah. Anyway, what's this show about? Is it just about Josh? I mean, what? I don't really know
Well, we're
much
actually
about the
gonna get
show.
there. We're
Except,
actually
like,
gonna get into it.
Yeah, no,
how
we
do
were
you
gonna
guys,
ask you questions too
Yeah, we were
about
gonna
your
like ask
you
life.
you
guys pay for
questions.
sponsored ads and stuff?
No,
How did
no.
that come into my feed? Like how, like how did I happen to scroll across this post about Josh?
I
Did
guess people are
post
just loving it. I guess people are just
Yeah.
loving us.
maybe they just know that I'm a sucker for Josh
Yeah.
content. But Josh
It's
is
the
very,
AI, it's the algorithm. It
I
gets,
know, but I'm trying to figure out how the algorithm
yeah, yeah.
like forced me, or at least it went on my algorithmic journey, like how it.
It's maybe it was Josh, maybe it was just I
I
don't
don't
know. We put
I don't think
hashtags. Maybe the hashtags.
The
the hashtags.
hashtags
Maybe the
do,
hashtags
yeah,
They
did it.
were. This
yeah.
could also, this might be a good moment to admit that you guys do pay for sponsored posts and ads and stuff.
We actually
We
haven't
don't. We
ever.
actually haven't.
Or I think we
I
paid
mean
for
that's
one once and it didn't really work, so then we didn't.
Yeah.
I got you.
And
I
it
wasn't
doesn't
But
do
actually think that
anything.
you do that. It's just like a joke.
no, yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah, I
But
figured.
but
But
but the fact that you guys protested, the ladies doth protest a bit too much.
okay, so anyways, I was thinking
Yeah,
we could ask you some questions.
yeah, go ahead. That's what I'm here for.
What piqued your curiosity with making movies about the internet and like even just what your background was in being online before you went into
Yeah.
making stuff about it?
Yeah.
I'm like fortunately for me, I do feel like I'm just like the perfect aged person to understand the internet and things as they happen. I mean, like I got into movies when I was like 11, 12, and that's also like, when the internet first became a thing, like probably I got like AOL when I was like 10 or 11, and it was like,
Mhm.
what's this? Or like AIM, instant messenger. Suddenly you're sending instant messages and having
Mhm.
instant communication with people. And as the internet evolved, Web 1 became probably when I was like 18 years old with the birth of Facebook, it became Web 2. I mean, you could say MySpace, but not really. I mean, Facebook was really the big transitional thing. And you got YouTube and just all these things happened as I was a teenager and evolved into my, like, I mean, I'm the first year of college student to have Facebook. I went to an Ivy League school. So like it was like, I was just lucky enough to be like basically our early adapter by birth,
That's
like
so interesting to experience.
Yeah.
yeah, and so but I also remember the time when you were, getting a little bump on your finger because you're writing so much with a pen and everything before having like definitely before smartphones, before even having cell phones, and just interacting with people, touching grass organically, not having to consciously think it would be good to touch grass, but just doing
Yeah.
it because it was just part of like daily life as like a kid, and like showing up at people's places and being like, hey, want to hang out, as opposed to like making plans for like 5 hours or whatever, or like making hanging out like a unique experience or something.
Mhm.
And yeah, so I just kind of there was a very appealing things. Like I remember as like a child, I was like, wow, this is, well, I grew up kind of poor, so I'd be like, oh, buying a CD, that's like so expensive. Why would this is like more than like $1 a song. This seems wrong. Or like when people would buy like new cars, I'm like, well, what's wrong with their old car? I just never understood like kind of capitalism, like way, or consumerism, I guess, the way it
Mhm.
really worked. So when like Napster came along and suddenly it's like, well, I can get all these songs for free. Well, I'm willing to pay for this thing called mini disc player because like it's like a investment in like a mechanism that allows me to listen to like infinite amount of music for free. So I can invest in like the hardware as long as I get all the stuff. Like, cause I get to pick, and I don't have to get download a whole fucking album. I can just download the songs I like, and I can download mislabeled songs like "Stuck in the Middle with You" by Bob Dylan, and I can just completely create my own like world of music, and that was very like appealing and exciting. And I remember downloading a Rolling Stones like band movie called Cocksucker Blues when I was like 15, and the download took like like 10 days off of like LimeWire and stuff. And it's just like it's exciting when you have a the teenage years for almost everyone is like the peak of their curiosity.
Mhm.
When you know, the internet being a brand new thing, and of course people are born into it now, so maybe it's not as novel, but just and people's experience are way more guided now. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
you know, platforms and apps became what AOL wanted to be. I mean, people really quickly like learn like, hey, this is stupid. Why would I click on this one of 12 tabs like sports, weather, news,
Mhm.
entertainment when I can literally put in any URL and explore the entire universe of things that don't have guide rails or guardrails or whatever. But then really Facebook and Instagram and all these platforms became that. It just like not just curated your experience, but limited your experience of curiosity and figuring things out. But anyway, as a teenager, it's just really fun to, oh, what's this band and what's this movie? And teenagers still do that, but coupling that with like a kind of Wild West internet was really fun. And
Mm-hmm.
you just become creative. And the pathway for my creativity was eventually movies because I was obsessed with movies. And when you're obsessed with something, you one day might have the confidence to say like, well, could I try? You
Mm-hmm.
know? And
Mhm.
if you have that feeling, you just if, you know, and you can figure out how to do it with whatever's available to you, then you just do it. And so um that's part of where it all comes from, just the timing on those things. I think I was always obsessed with like split screens and stuff. I
Mm-hmm.
just thought that was so cool, and like this is a split screen now, like the three of us talking, and
Mhm.
I mean, this is just an interesting, appealing quality to taking in all that information at once, and kind of choosing where to look and how to combine the pieces of imagery and information that's on a split screen, and I always liked that, and I understood that's also how a computer desktop looked. A phone is a little bit different, but a computer desktop looked like that, and I just
Mm-hmm.
yeah, very naturally. It was like I should make a movie that kind of incorporates the computer desktop and language because it'll just look cool and yeah.
Mm. I think it's so interesting because I like remember being a kid and like when those movies first started coming out, because there was like a while where there just wasn't anything like involving like that level of like internet or like just like social media usage in movies.
Mhm.
And I think it's really interesting because as a kid I was always like, oh my God, this is like when people would do it and they do it wrong, it was like the most isolating thing for like a viewer to watch, I feel like. And I think that's what's really interesting about like your movies because I feel like you found a way to do it, especially in the code, where it's like, oh, this is actually like progressing the plot. Like, I'm like, this is like also a side of the internet that feels actually genuine. And like, this is what the internet's like at this point. Like,
Mhm.
it in a lot of movies, it feels like this like misrepresentation. And especially because like everyone's on such different pockets of the internet, I
Mm,
think it becomes really, really easy for someone to just like be totally isolated by whatever they're seeing in a movie.
mm,
Yeah, and it like completely, yeah, like you said, takes you out of it. I feel like when you're watching a movie and they have the internet or social media in it, but it's in a way that just feels so not authentic, it completely takes you out of it and you're like, okay, well now I can't like even if the rest of the movie's really good, it's like now I can't
Mm,
even watch it in the same way.
yeah. Well, I mean, like one of the things you guys are talking about, I guess, is just like as simple as like graphic design, just like poor graphic design, poor understanding of like UX and interactivity because people are legally scared to use real apps or something, so they think we need to figure out our own instant messaging system. And of course, they're just random graphic designers who work on movies. They're not people who design apps or,
Mm,
websites for a living. So they're bad at it, blah, blah, blah. So that's one thing, right? You see something that
mm,
the design or interactivity of it seems whack. Like there's a trailer recently for a movie called Heart Eyes, and it's like a movie built around like, like a Valentine's Day killer or something. And it starts with some like instant message, some, messaging, and it looks real bad. Text messages. I'm like, text messages look bad. It's like clearly like a $10 plus movie. Seems weird, but whatever. Like the fonts are wrong. Anyway, so that's one thing. And there's a whole other thing, which is just like this concept people have that like, oh, the internet is like extremely uncinematic. Like, how could we possibly show people on their phones all the time? That's so boring. We could never make a
mm,
movie out of that.
mm,
But the reality is that people are on their phones all the time. So if you can't make a movie out of the reality that people exist in, then you're not a filmmaker. I mean, or whatever. You don't understand like the potential of cinema, and I'm all about the potential of cinema. So my goal is to represent life in the way that I experience it and make sure that it's thrilling, funny, emotional, whatever, scary. And there's of course ways to do that. You just have to experiment. You just have to say, oh, I haven't seen this before. Isn't that exciting? Like I'm gonna figure it out and not just be like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, I haven't seen this
Mhm.
before because it's impossible. It's like, well, there's nothing that's impossible in art. You just have to figure out how to make it entertaining or how to make it truthful or whatever, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I mean, I think that'll change, like your guys' opinion is probably the normal opinion and like yeah, I started doing this at a moment where like, I would be I'm probably considered extremely online, but if I was like 15 years younger, I would just be a normal person. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think probably for future filmmakers and people who are starting to make movies now, it won't be hard. It'll just be totally normal. And then they'll have examples of it, like maybe some of my movies or other people's movies who have tried to do it. And they'll take things that they like and they'll fix things that they don't like and whatever. And it'll just be more normal, I hope,
Mm-hmm.
because I'm
Mhm.
interested in stuff like that too. I want to see stuff like that. Yeah.
Well, on one hand, I wonder if there even really is such thing as like obviously from my perspective as someone who's also extremely online, I'm like there is such thing as a bad internet movie. Like this is just not what this really looks like. Aside from like everything you mentioned of like just properly displaying like social media platforms and stuff like that. But I think where my um like my disconnect comes in is more so when the person making it isn't extremely media literate and even if it's still kind of representative of an audience that just isn't very media literate, it just feels so like, oh, this is just like you're only grazing the surface of this topic right now and you're making a movie about the internet. But then on the other hand, I wonder because like a lot of people aren't like even people our age, like went to go see Rachel Vermont, like
Mm.
me and Samira did, and like my ex-boyfriend came with us and he would like did not understand like he's not online that way. And I just think it's interesting seeing like the like contrast of like who that actually like it like takes to and who like
But
you know
since
what
it
I mean?
Yeah, yeah, but it's interesting because I saw that film in a theater for the first time in Australia, and I found, well, did your ex-boyfriend like it or no?
No.
Okay,
No.
yeah, because that's
Yeah.
actually the opposite, I think, of what happened in Australia, which is that like I think anyone there who was very like much knew about like Times Square in New York, like cloudy ass scene and all that, kind of
Mm.
didn't like the movie. But then
Mhm.
there were a few people there that I had become friends with, who like had told me like one of them was a guy who didn't have a phone, and another person was like this girl who basically like wasn't in tuned into any of that stuff, that scene or
Mhm.
anything. She like was online, but she wasn't like extremely online. And they both loved the movie. They literally viewed it as like a message from another planet, you know? And I
Whoa.
think the people who
That's
are
so
more like
interesting.
cloudy were like, oh man, that's cringe. Like that was rough
Yeah.
or whatever. Like, like I can't fuck with that or whatever.
Mm.
And I'm very close with Peter, as I'm sure you gathered from him being one of the stars of the code and just whatever social media. And when I first saw it, even before that, I said to Peter, I said, this is a movie for the future because I think a lot of people are going to have a problem with this now, but like it will just be like understood in a way deeper way when it's like divorced from like the scene that it like
Mm.
from, in my
Yeah.
opinion. But it's had
Yeah.
like a great life. I mean, it's truly one of the only movies I can think of that's like a midnight movie in the tradition of Pink Flamingos or Eraserhead or El Topo or something. Like Peter, this fucking movie is playing at the Roxy Cinema like once or twice a week at like
Mm.
10 p.m. and selling out after 10
Yeah.
minutes of tickets being online. So Peter has really made a midnight movie, which isn't that too different from kind of what I told him would happen, and it's rocking. It's doing great. So I'm really happy for him, and there people, make memes about it, talk shit about it, celebrate it, and it's very interesting the life it's had so far.
Mm.
Yeah.
No, I really think it'll end up becoming like even at the like least just like an artifact of that era of the internet because I'm sure things will change a lot in the future and I'm just interested to see how that just like ages with time.
Yeah. I mean, it's when we talk about quote unquote internet movies, it's a whole we're talking about very different types of things. Like, okay, so like you talk about the code being a movie, like that's about how people function on the internet, but
Mm,
it's very different than a movie like Spree, which is actually using the format of a live stream to tell a narrative. It is like, you know, basically you're watching a live stream as a movie, right? So
Mhm.
that's basically baked into the a format that we understand, right?
mm,
Whereas the code is kind of a pastiche of a bunch of different ways of operating under the umbrella of a quote unquote documentary, right? And
mm,
so it's and then you have other things like Zeros and Ones and Skydiver, like my first two movies, which are basically just like screen cinema, right? It's like this is a desktop, you're watching something on a desktop. And then something like Peter's movie is anthropomorphization of internet behavior into human beings. It's like taking the anonymous shit poster and turning them into a human kind of thing. And
mm.
so there's all sorts of different things that we're talking about that I guess can be put under this rubric. But anyway, I don't know why I felt the need to clarify that. But it just
No,
No.
no, I think it's interesting.
Yeah.
well,
Yeah.
most people, when if they listen to this soon hereafter, they will not have seen the code because it's not
Mm,
out. It hasn't had any really screenings outside of festivals, and unless you live in New York, you probably haven't seen Peter's movie Rachel or Mont. So, just to clarify what these things are, I think.
yeah, no, I
Yeah.
think that's helpful. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
No, I forgot that they're like not actually out or like
But they
yeah, like
should
the
be.
code
Like
isn't.
it
yeah,
would it would be great. Like I'm actually trying to get the code on OnlyFans TV, which is a free app you can get
Whoa.
on that has no nudity and no it has none of the things that make OnlyFans like illegal to be put on an app.
mm.
Mhm.
I didn't
Um
know that existed. That's so
Me
interesting.
either.
Exactly. That's what I was pitching to them yesterday. Essentially, I was saying, look, there's a lot of cool people out there that don't know this exists. It's a platform basically for people who have OnlyFans accounts to have like cooking shows and comedy specials and stuff. And I was like, there's an OnlyFans element in the film. This is a film about romance, love, relationships, sex. This is the subject matter of like, anyone who's even casually on your platform.
Mhm.
And it's a commentary on, our interaction with these things in an extremely online world. I think it would be great for anyone who, uses OnlyFans and who watches OnlyFans TV, which I don't know what that audience is. And anyone who doesn't really fuck with OnlyFans and doesn't know too much about it or doesn't have an account might be interested in this movie just organically. And then they're like, wow, this is cool. And then maybe they can
Mm.
subscribe to someone
Yeah.
else or something, you
Well,
know?
it also seems like immersive for the movie itself, which I think is interesting because
Mhm,
I know you did a similar thing with Spree when it came out. Because
mhm,
that's actually how I found out about you was like when Spree came out because I was
Mhm.
following Josh at the
Mhm.
time, and I
uh-huh.
was like, oh, there's a movie that Josh is in, and then I was like, oh, I was like obsessed with the marketing for it at the time. I think I was like a teenager, and I was like, this is so interesting because I have not seen a movie like try to be immersive on social media before. And for anyone who like doesn't know what I'm talking about, it's like basically you guys like did like a fake like Kurt account, which is the
Yeah,
main
just check out
character.
Kurt's World
Yep.
96 on Instagram and Kurt's World on TikTok, and you can see what took over like 3 months of my life. Uh,
Yeah.
I was like
Yeah.
running that every day, like yeah, and it was well, go on. I mean, if
No, I just thought that was like
yeah,
so
it's
fascinating to
an
me
in
as like
character. It was
a
an in
kid.
character
Yeah.
account. Yeah, thanks. I was doing it for like teen Eugene,
Mhm.
I was doing it. I was like, this is something I would have liked. I was so into
Mm,
movies. I was so into movies, and I was like so into like IMDb and stuff. And it was like the coolest part of that was just trivia. It was like the metatextual stuff. You just wanted to look up the stuff that surrounded the movie. And then I was like, well, this is extremely online character, and like there might be people who are like Joe fans or whatever, or like Josh and Finn Wolfhard kind of pointed towards that account. And when I realized
mm,
it's gonna get a following. It's like there might be people who like fuck with this account who actually never end up watching the movie. So I'm
Mhm.
going to like day in, day out, re-arc like the movie and try to get across what interests me about like online addiction, addiction to attention. And so yeah, I was just really living day in, day out in that character, like writing the comments, writing the replies, writing the you know, bolstering people's like original content and interaction with character, but also trying to make a mini arc where basically every time Kurt got a big group of followers or some famous person like reposted him, he was like so excited and so happy. And then like, you know, like basically an hour or two later, like completely like disappointed with what that meant and like just trying to get to the next goalpost of like triple digit followers and 10,000. Oh, well,
Mm.
10,000 is amazing. I never could have imagined this. And suddenly you want 50,000, you know what I mean? And just this sort of like endless feelings of kind of like inadequacy and desire and psychosis that come with like the internet and the value systems of the internet. And so I just wanted to do a, but that sounds really bleak, what I just said,
Mm.
but I wanted to make like a fun and funny version of that in the account in case that was all that people ever interacted with. They could still feel like, you know, my insight on reality and on how people
Mm.
function on the internet. And luckily, I think most of the people who follow that account did watch the movie. So great, you know.
Yeah.
Mm.
No, that's really interesting. I yeah, did also want to ask, speaking of like Spree and the Code, with like the actors that you have in it, because I like a lot of your films tend to feature people, and I'm sure this is also just a side effect of you being friends with these people and like knowing them through your social circle. But like with featuring people like Josh, like Peter Vac, Dasha, like all these different people who are very much like internet personas. I'm like curious like how like choosing to work with these people, how you feel it impacts both the process of making the film and then also the final product and the reception of the film, or if you've noticed anything.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Um, I think for me, casting and picking a crew is all about yeah, like it's awesome to work with people you admire. And I think it's very important to work with people that you think are smart and think are hot or interesting to look at because that comes through. The energy you have when you're, you know, making a film comes through the camera, comes through the edit, comes through the sound. And so I've always tried to work with people that I admire or want to hang out with. And sometimes you don't know the person ahead of time. Like I didn't know Josh. Like I hit him up cold. Um, I actually didn't know that much about him, but one day my girlfriend like showed me his like a compilation of his vines, and I was
Mm.
like, oh, he's so good. Like he'll make this character I wrote way better,
Yeah.
which is what you always want. Someone to make what you imagined like way better, you know. And
Mm.
so I would say anyone who's trying to make a film, just if find the smartest people you can.
Mhm.
You know, that's the way. And, you know, I think back in the day, if you thought someone was like an amazing personality that you met, or you did a screen test, they did screen tests, right? Like this person has the right look, but can they act? You know, you had to do tests and stuff. But now we have the unbelievable like luxury that everyone constantly posts themselves and, you know, like videos and photos and stuff all the time. So you don't really need to do a screen test. You don't even need to hang out with anyone for like, you know, a long time. You just need to say, like, hey, based on this person's social media, are they a brilliant genius who like is constantly able to comment on things like in the moment? And when they post videos, can you actually see them like confidently crafting a character or like achieving improvisatory moments that feel reactive and true? Oh, great. That seems like a great actor. I mean, Ivy Wolk is a perfect
Oh my
example.
God. Yeah,
You
she's
know,
Yeah, I
amazing.
love
like you
her.
can just tell from Ivy's tweeting and her videos and stuff that she is a legend in the making. She is a living diva and she is yeah, like a genius, you know? And
Mm.
so if you can collaborate with someone like that, if they understand what you're trying to do and they are down to hang out and play around and have fun and you know, collaborate, you know, communication is super important. Then you've done well. Then you are doing well by your film if you can find people
Mhm.
like that. So that's always my motivation with casting. And I used to, even like when I was doing my first films, there would just be people on social media that I thought were really interesting, and I would just message them and be like, "Hey, do you want to be in a movie? Or are you interested? Have you ever been thought about being in a movie?" And that, you know, is random, but also like some people are like, "Yeah, what is it?" You
Mhm.
know. I think people are way more guarded about that now because we are so much more like brand conscious, and by brand I mean like self-brand conscious. We brand
Yeah.
ourselves, and
Hmm.
like we burn ourselves with a hot poker that's our little avatar on it, and suddenly we are a brand. And so people are a little bit more wary about like being in projects with people they don't know out of nowhere, because they understand that to be in quote unquote someone else's thing, even though it is a collaboration, you let go of the final product, right? You're not controlling the final
Mhm.
product, and everyone is, a burgeoning pop star and a corporate product at the same time. So everyone's really worried. But back in the day, it was pretty normal to just be like, hey, like, I'm trying to make a movie. Do you want to like try out, or do you want to be in it? And people be like, yeah, what is it? I think that's a
Hmm.
sad consequence of the kind of trace culture, where anything you do or say can be taken out of context and used against you. I mean, it's really, people are just way more guarded and way more corporate about their identity and about their existence. To be corporate about your existence is deranged. I mean, it's sad.
Mhm.
The
Hmm.
Yeah.
Sorry to keep rambling, but I'll just say one last thing. Like the ephemerality of life is one of the like great liberators of life. The fact that you can do something and it won't go down in history is a good thing. The fact that
Hmm.
you can say something that's on your mind and it won't be documented for all eternity is a good thing. And a lot of the friction that's created by the internet is that people believe that they're interacting in this ephemeral way because it's so immediate, and our brains are
Mhm.
wired to be like, oh, if I'm saying something and someone's responding right away, it must be normal conversation that like is just meaningless. But then it's like a tweet they do. So it actually exists forever, like a written text. And so a lot of the friction and conflict in our kind of culture comes from that disconnect between the mind thinking that life is ephemeral and the reality of our world, which is like a constant like public court, you know.
Hmm.
Yeah. How does it affect the movies working with Dasha and Ivy? I don't know. I'm not in charge of that. I mean, I guess it's easier to work with like industry approved like mega stars and stuff that no one can say anything bad about. But that's not how I think about the films. And I do think that the film should speak for themselves. Obviously, we live in a culture of like where the cult of personality can, you live by the sword, you die by the sword and stuff. And
Mhm.
people can have all sorts of problems with all sorts of people. Um, but for me, it's just about, is this person gonna um, fulfill the role in the way that I would like? And I love Ivy, and I love Dasha, and I love Peter, and I think they're all really special performers, and I think that they're great in the movies I've made with them,
Mhm.
and Josh and everyone, and I don't see like people differently because they do or don't have public opinions.
Hmm.
They do or
Mhm.
don't engage with like the culture. I mean, take someone like Dasha and Ivy as well. It's like, don't you think it's amazing to have like people who are like comedians and actors who actually also have like original thoughts?
Mhm.
Even if I don't
Hmm.
agree with all their original thoughts. I mean, think of any Hollywood actor. They have like no opinions about anything because maybe they have tons of opinions, but they're scared.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Scared to share them or whatever. And maybe that's what people want. But I like people who have a perspective and engage in reality, even if I don't agree with the things they say. I like that people um have an opinion.
Hmm. I
Yeah.
kind of loved also just them being like internet presences in an internet movie and like having to factor in, even though maybe it's not like what you want, but like I feel like it's impossible to not factor in. This is like I know who this person is and the way they're like acting in this movie and like their character. This makes it so much funnier to me. Like this
Yeah.
makes it like it's like kind of like two layers instead of one, you know?
Yeah.
But I don't know. I thought they were perfect in the roles they were casted in. I was like,
Yeah,
yeah,
thanks.
these roles were made for
Yeah. No,
them.
the casting was so good. I was like, I feel like, yeah, it just added a whole other layer of like,
And the
this is
Casey
so
Fry
funny.
moment,
Oh
I was
my
like,
God,
oh
yeah.
my God.
Yeah, Casey's a great example. I mean, but the thing is that people should understand why, I want the code to come out in the right way, in the right context, is that this is a movie about canceled characters. These characters are canceled, it's a movie that's making fun of canceled people and
Hmm.
also can the culture that cancels people as well. It's a satire, like Spree is a satire that makes fun of white male mass murderers. Now, if you said, "Oh, that's a good idea for a movie," people get scared when they just hear ideas. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like Dasha's in a movie and it's about cancel culture. Like that's gonna be evil and bad, and I don't want to see that. And so actually, like I'm making fun of all these things, and like
Hmm.
um, so yeah, and when it comes to, yeah, Casey is someone I didn't really know him, but I think he's so funny. And I asked Josh to hook us up, and Josh hooked us up. And so when Casey got on set, I had the script and I was like, you should also do like a little dancing because I think his dance is so funny. So like, yeah, we
And that's
figured
like his thing.
that's
He's
his thing.
Yeah.
So we figured out how to put a few little dance moves in there, and he cracked me up so much. I mean,
Mm.
we did all his scenes basically in like 4 or 5 hours, and he cracked me up so much. And then I said to him and Dasha, I was like, wow, that was really like, I was like, are you guys like really feeling it and stuff? And then Dasha was like, that is the least sexual chemistry I've ever had with anybody in my entire life. And I was like, are you kidding me? That was perfect. That's exactly what I wanted. That was really intense and steamy.
no,
But clearly that's the funny part of the scene, right? That his character thinks that they're like deeply connected and deeply sexually vibing, and then she's like, "Oh my God, you are creepy and you need to leave." So I'm glad that disconnect was there. It's nice.
Yeah.
yeah.
That's
No, I
awesome.
I think the review I wrote of the movie was like Casey Fry and Dasha makeout sesh. Like
Yeah.
2024 is fucking awesome.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, that wasn't on my bingo card. Yeah, yeah.
But no, I think that just like, yeah, I don't know. Everything you're saying is very, very interesting. I think even just in terms of like hearing why you casted people and like, I think like just, I don't know. I'm always so fascinated by how an audience takes something in and like the intention and everything. And I don't know, it being like an internet movie, I think just like implicates so much. And there's so much you just can't control like it within like an audience taking it in.
I think you can control to a certain extent people's experience of if they sit down and press play, you are now in control. I mean, it is
Mm,
a
Mhm.
durational medium that is a passive immersive medium, right? So there's no real agency you have as a film viewer. You're stuck for a certain period of time. And it's your responsibility as a filmmaker to say, make this worth someone's time. Make
Mhm.
sure that they don't walk away. Make sure they don't change the channel. Make sure they don't look at their fucking phone. That's all I can try to be in control of. The metatextual stuff, yeah, you can do cool shit. Like one of the, great coups of the 21st century is, like the casting of like Spring Breakers, right? That's like great casting. That's like an idea. It's metatextual. It has a lot of different layers. The Disney stars, the James Franco,
mm,
all that stuff, the Gucci Mane, all that stuff is just great casting and it works on a bunch of different
Mhm.
levels. You can do that. And I thought I was doing that sort of, this movie and casting, let's say, Josh in Spree and stuff like that. And I also Joe in Spree, he had like it's been gone for many years now, but he had really good social media where he was kind of like almost like a very charming version of like Kurt on his social media. And so yeah, you have this thoughtful, hopefully, approach where you do consider metatextual elements. And I'm trying to make a movie in Japan now, and I have certain instincts, but I'm not deep into I don't live in Japan. I don't have a deepest awareness of like Japanese culture. So I just have certain instincts, and it's funny because I like said, oh, this actor's always been interesting to me because I've seen him in a few Japanese movies, and they're like, that guy, like no one works with that guy. And it's like, why? It's like, oh, this thing happened. This is like, well, I want to work with him. And they're like, right. And everyone's like, cool. Everyone's like, cool, because I didn't have the contact. I just knew this guy's name. But they were like, yeah, like someone needs to work with this person again. But I don't, but it's lucky not to have the context. And
Yeah.
in a way, and all the context is fake. I mean, look, Peter's movie is actually really unique in this way that it's like a time capsule, like you said, it like fully engages with these things head on in a way that's discomforting and unique. And what
mm,
I'm trying to do is really zoom out and say, like, this is how we live now. And I'm going to make honest, emotional, and hopefully funny observations about like how life worked. And for Spree, I guess it's 2018 or something. And then in the code, it's 2021. And just saying
Mhm.
mm,
how it was. You know, and the one thing that like I don't mention in any summary of the movie and that you guys haven't said and that people shouldn't really give a shit, but then when they see the movie, they go, that is the most realistic and best movie about COVID I've ever seen. It's like you say that if you put that in a summary and say, oh, it's a movie about like COVID or it takes place, everyone's like, cringe. Like, I
Yeah.
don't want to see that.
Mm.
I don't want to see that. But it's like we all universally around the world went through this experience. And then everyone's like, well, no one wants to like see that. It's like, well, the point of art is to process like insane things that we
Mm.
accept as normal. And like that whole experience was so crazy just going through that. And it's one of the only things that the entire world went through together. And to not try to like process that through art is so lame. And just like how I
Yeah.
felt when I was 21, like or actually 19 when I made my zeros and ones a short, was like to not try to process the fact that everyone's like on their computers right now on social media and all this stuff and has been for like 5 years and like messaging each other. To not try to process that through my art would make me seem like
Mm.
a fraud. And so
Yeah.
not make a movie about the thing that the entire world went through and try to grapple with it and make fun of it and go through whatever emotions people are going through, I would just feel fraudulent, you know? So I'm happy I did that. I'm happy I can add that to the culture, you know, and but I know strategically never to like lead with that, you know?
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
I think there's
Yeah.
an aura around COVID that like people, because I think any media that has come out about it has been not like, I don't know, I don't think there was maybe enough time for us to like just take a second and be like, okay, now we can reflect on this in a way that feels more real. And I think doing that through an internet movie is very smart because it's like, I don't know, I don't feel like anyone else has actually explored that in the same way. And also I think just in general, it's nice that I get very excited about like Rachel Vermont and like movies like The Code. And I was very excited because I was like, wow, people are like doing something unique that I haven't seen before again. And this is
Yeah.
really exciting to me as someone who is so online.
Well, yeah, thanks.
Yeah.
I hope people get a chance to see it, you know. It's a
Yeah.
that's my thing and that's the one thing you kind of can't control, you know. Movies cost money, you have to make money back. The whole system is like pretty twisted and broken. I wish everything was like cheap and free and then you just put it up on YouTube and you know, obviously people who have figured out many different ways to make that work for them.
Hmm.
Um Maybe this movie could work for me in that way. I don't know, but
Mm,
it's still stuck kind of in the old model of distribution. And for certain, you know, logistical and financial reasons, it's still stuck in that. And so that's just the way it has to be. It has to go through the mechanisms of showing at a festival and then someone buys it and they put it in a theater and then it gets played on some streamer. And that's still the kind of like example of what most filmmakers are striving for. And I definitely don't feel like I maybe have the courage or something to just sidestep that. I don't have the financial freedom to say like, hey, let's just put the movie out. I do
Hmm.
think if I just put the movie out, that would be fine and good, and then everyone could watch it, and you know, there'd be no barrier to entry and stuff.
mm,
But it's just not the model, the structure, the infrastructural model of releasing films is not like that. But you know, it's been broken for a long time. I mean, this is boring stuff, but the sort of like independent film structure of release has been broken for at least
mm,
15 years and has to do with streaming and the death of like kind of DVDs and Blu-rays and stuff. And
mm,
it's just a complicated thing to release a movie that doesn't have like super huge megastars and doesn't have tons of millions of dollars for marketing and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
but I'm not complaining. I'm happy. I know the movie will come out and people will see it, and I bet some people will really like it. Uh,
Hmm.
it's just need to figure out how to do it ASAP and through what mechanisms, you know?
yeah.
Yeah.
I'm curious if you have like a ideal fix for that at all. Like if you have like a solution in mind. I know that's like a very broad question. I do think a little bit too, just like the scarcity of it, though it's like also like such a negative thing, it kind of makes the movie a little bit more special, which is like nice, but you know, it sucks that it can't just like reach everyone.
Yeah, yeah, I don't care. That part is like, you know, I'm okay with. Look, I want like as many people as possible to see all my movies. Okay, like that's always my goal to make something that connects with people deeply, so that they feel excited to share it with other people. I mean, that's how I felt about the movies that I was obsessed with when I was young, and even still, you know, I have like a movie club where I share movies with people and all that. But my fix, I don't know. My fix is, you know, I also produce films. So my fix is movies should be made as cheaply as they possibly can while being responsible to the crews and the writer, directors, and actors who work on them. Like have a responsible attitude towards budget. You work with, you know, this is again the older model. You work with sales agencies often ahead of time to figure out what the estimated sales will be around the world. And then you say, okay, we know we can make our money back. And we will just do this in this way. Um, the solution, I don't know. I mean, look, there's people like Dax Flame. There's like a guy that Dax Flame works with. I'm forgetting his name, but that guy makes a ton of like YouTube movies he just put straight up on YouTube.
Mm.
And I remember blanking on his name, but I remember he also had a campaign of like, why aren't my movies like on Letterbox? You know, he posted a video like that. And actually, I ran into this guy one time at a bar, and I said, "Hey, you're the guy who did that video about like why aren't your movies on Letterbox?" He was like, and he was like really mean to me, and I was like, "Okay. All right, well, I was just saying like, good, I think that's cool, but you're
um,
got a lot of stuff going on. I
He's
guess
like
I'm
mad because you're on Letterboxd and he's not.
no,
No, I'm
I
kidding.
no, I'm sure he didn't know who I. I'm
No,
sure he
yeah,
didn't know
I'm
who I
just
am because
kidding.
if he knew who I was, I'm sure he'd be happy to have like a normal conversation. But I generally personally just have normal conversations with everyone, with anyone who kind of wants to talk to me. I try not to be too dismissive of anyone, so I was a little bit shocked. But maybe he just thought I was like a random, like kind of like fangirl, like reply guy. And he was like, "Whoa, whoa, man! Like, don't talk to me. I'm at the bar right now." Or something. And I was like, all right. But and I was trying to say, oh yeah, so that guy kind of figured something out, you know. And it's just about cost, you know. If you can,
Mm.
I've made movies for nothing. Like I don't know if you guys saw Skydiver, my webcam movie. That's cost nothing. And there are other movies I made, like I made a movie. I was basically living inside a virtual reality arcade, and I was like, I have to do something here, you know. So I made a movie inside this virtual reality arcade called We Are, and that costs like nothing, costs like $2,000. So
Mm.
if you know, like if a movie doesn't cost anything, then it's easy to just put it out there in the world and let people enjoy it. But if it costs something, it requires a responsible attitude towards making that money back. And I guess like I guess I don't really have an answer. I mean, I I guess I could just put it up on YouTube and make Casey Frey like post about it every day. And I'm sure he would love to do that.
Yeah.
Link it every day and make sure it's monetizable and have Josh post about it and
And like
Joe,
mid-roll
like,
ads.
hey
That would
Joe, I
work.
know you're touring the world right now, but can you just hyperlink this movie starring Dasha and Ivy and all this shit? Oh, yeah, and Google and have Google ads every 4 minutes, and you know sell the insurance and prescription medication and some weird like fake product that like your scan Timu and Shine and all that stuff,
Yeah.
and have little pop-ups for Shine and stuff, and yeah, make all the money back. I guess that'd be great.
Yeah. Yeah,
I
I think
am.
that's a good plan. I think that'll work. Sorry,
Yeah,
were you gonna
I
say,
like that.
Samira?
No, I was also just gonna ask, this is kind of shifting a little bit, but I was just
Sure.
curious, with like talking about the internet and stuff so much, because that is such a big part of obviously your movies and also our podcast. I'm curious to know from your perspective as someone who like really grew up, like you saw kind of like everything happen, like you grew up without it and then, saw like the advent of it and stuff. I'm curious to know if you like ever experienced any sort of online dread or like just what your thoughts are about like what we're moving toward in terms of the online space. Um, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, when you make things, like you have to, one kind of assumption you have to make as someone who's like expressing ideas you haven't seen before, let's say, is like, well, I've never seen anybody talk about this, but I've experienced it deeply once or twice or many times. And so I know there are going to be other people out there who've experienced it, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And so one thing that I experienced that I tried to kind of like incorporate into like the Kurt Kunkel character in Spree and in the promotional account was this thing that I call like digital rock bottom, like hitting digital rock bottom.
Mm.
And it's like a really terrible feeling when you've like just been too online for like way too concentrated of a period of time, which is basically the new normal. But like I went through these growing pains over like, like basically a 15 to 20-year period. And if you're just online for way too long and you desperately feel a need to like connect with something or someone, some song or some movie or some person you know, or some person you don't know, and none of those things are like happening, you just feel basically like, borderline suicidal. Okay. You just feel like, wow, like this world is not meant for me, and it's a very manufactured feeling. It's a feeling that is completely derived from a kind of schizoid disconnection between your expectations of what's available on a communication level, on uh, a love level, attention level, a creative level, available to you in these spaces, virtual spaces, and like your kind of desire and expectation of those things in IRL space, right?
Mhm.
In the interiority of your mind and in the kind of IRL interaction. And so, yeah, that leads to a kind of psychosis, yeah, and a kind of darkness and a kind of like sustained feeling of rejection and all this stuff. I mean, I do have a bunch of scenes in different movies of mine that sort of deal with this in different ways. I don't know if you guys saw like Wobble Palace, but
Mm.
there's like that scene where my character like matches with someone on Tinder and then like starts messaging her, and then there's like no response, and then basically goes crazy and
Yeah.
acts like
Yeah.
evil guy, and then at the end she's like, I was just in the shower, and it's
Yeah.
just like that kind of disconnect between assumptions that we make due to the immediacy of communication available to us and the reality of the person on the other side is like, it's like horrific and very it's a unique moment to the human experience to have these sort of expectations that are divorced from context due to the virtuality, or divorced from reality due to the virtuality of them. And I think it's all real bad. I mean, I don't think it's bad. It's just a new normal and people will find ways of adapting to it. And,
Mm.
like there are reasons why everyone is like, basically like everyone young is basically like, like mildly autistic. It's because it's like a coping mechanism for like the intensity of the emotionality that is required by immediate communication, and it's a cope also with kind of like the gamification of like social life and of connection and romance. Like everything has been gamified, right? Everything has stats, everything has kind of dopamine rewards. And so virtual life is a game in a way. And the only way to like not fucking be suicidal all the time is to like kind of in a weird way have to be emotionally divorced from it, or not take it so seriously, or just have like this kind of like wall, like again, like I feel like actually someone my age is like the most vulnerable and like the most like kind of like damaged by this stuff in a way, like an older millennial, because like they still have like all of the weird like earnestness receptors and like just like the way the world didn't used to be immediately connected, and suddenly like they still remember that, and everything is just like, anyway, whatever. I'm sure everyone
Mm.
feels the way I'm saying. I don't mean to make like weird generational distinctions because
No, it
No.
makes a lot of sense to have like witnessed that part of
Yeah.
like this not being the way it is, and like have like kind of mourning the memory of that.
you're no mourning. You just have like you just have all these different reference points for experientiality like within your side, your consciousness, and
Mm.
so you don't really know which sector of expectation to use. Whereas if you grew up into this thing and like you basically have always been communicating immediately with people and you kind of understand the rules and the signifiers, and like your expectation set is different if you are calibrated from birth in a certain way,
Mhm.
or whereas if you had other modes of interactivity that were ingrained into you, like this things, and you can see it with like Gen Xers and boomers, they're really twisted and confused by all this stuff, and the constantly making like the wrong decisions and asking the wrong questions and stuff, and that's just a source of comedy. But for someone like me, you know what they say, tragedy is when I get a paper cut, and comedy is when you fall in a manhole. So like, it's like it's tragic for someone like me go through all this stuff, but actually highly comedic for Gen Xers and Boomers to watch this suffer. Yeah. So,
Mm.
but kind of sidestepping and going back a little bit, someone who I do think figured out not in film, but who I really like and who I figured out a model that works is like Brad Trammell. You know him?
I don't know.
Mm-mm.
Oh yeah, you guys should look at Brad Trammell. He was when I was making my first feature zeros and ones, I was like, does anybody else like the internet? And like, is anybody else making art on the internet? And that's when I started looking up people like internet, movie, art, and there are all these great people. I met like Petra Cortright and John Raffman and all these basically what they call internet and post-internet artists.
Mm.
Um, and one of them was Brad. He had a Tumblr called The Jogging, which is like a kind of art meme Tumblr where he and a bunch of other people were like making sculptures that were like they would vacuum seal stuff, or they would like take like one of the famous ones was like a Taco Bell taco and they put like a lock through it or something and they'd sell
Mm.
it, or it just become a meme image. And so the jogging was this kind of like proto-viral art project, and there were all sorts of things like that, like surfing. It was called like the surf, like internet surfing. There were surfing clubs and all this sort of early social media, early internet stuff. Anyway, so Brad was like online artist, post-internet artist, and then he became kind of a gallery artist for a while, and he was also like a writer and a teacher and all this stuff. And then around 2014 or 15, he's like, I don't want to be part of the art world. It's like fake. It's like completely out of touch with like my experience, the reality of most artists, the reality of most people who look at images online. And I'm just going to see if I can support myself as an artist through my online content. And so he made a Patreon essentially, and the Patreon supports his Instagram account, which is Brad Trammell, Trammell spelled Troemel. And in it, he basically makes memes and art that analyzes cultural trends and that analyzes online behavior, it analyzes the art world. And it's really good. And, he supports himself doing that. And the art it's very online art. So it's hard to kind of compare it to gallery, wall art, paintings and sculptures, traditional
Mm.
fine art world art, but it is meaningful art. And I always tell my people who are deeply embedded in the art world, like Brad is a significant artist, even though like he's a what they call, you ever heard of the term institutional critique? It's a kind of art theory thing where it's like, oh well, I know I'm part of the art institution, but I'm gonna be able to kind of critique it from the
Mm.
Mm.
inside, from the outside. But there never really are on the outside. And I really do feel like Brad is one of the first people I can point to and say, okay, this is an actual institutional critique because he's not participating in
Mm.
that, in the capital, in the system of like, making money off of that universe. I mean, there are people who've done
Mm.
it before. There's like a famous piece called Dropout Piece by Lee Lozano, where she basically is like, I'm not going to actually participate for 3 years. Like that's my art piece. And so
Mhm.
it
Mm.
happens, but Brad is very prolific, and I'm sure you'll find his stuff really funny. And
Yeah, no, I'm so
Yeah.
excited to like
leads
look
in
at
that.
it.
No, I just like
Especially
pulled
someone
up
like
his
starting on
Instagram
Tumblr. I'm
now.
like, yeah, you probably
Oh
know
yeah,
what you're
you
doing.
can look up the jogging. I mean, yeah, this stuff is
Yeah.
pretty much aligned. My movies were a little bit before, but it's a different project. And so, like in early 20 teens, I think, like 2010, 11, 12, there's so much great content there that you
Mm.
can see.
Was Josh Citarella also part of jogging?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Josh and Brad.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
That makes sense. I was literally gonna say, but I was like, this is kind of like the classic guy who's making that kind of stuff. But I was gonna say that reminds me of like Josh Citarella, except like he's more like political focused.
Yeah, Josh is very political, and he's a really nice guy, Josh. And yeah, him
Mm.
and Brad were extremely close back in that era.
That
Um,
makes a lot of sense because I feel
yeah.
like he like finding him for me was like, oh, I'm kind of opening a door to like seeing people who are doing more internet based like analysis and art and stuff like that, which is really
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Mm.
Um, yeah, Josh is a really interesting guy for sure.
Mm.
Both of those guys got obsessed with like also like working out. I wish I'd got
That's the pipeline, I think, is
Yeah,
like
that is the
making internet
pipeline.
art and then like getting obsessed with working out.
Well, before they had 4chan, they had something called bodybuilding.net. That was like the proto 4chan. It was like all the trolls and stuff were on something called bodybuilding.net.
I actually heard that. I did hear
Yeah.
that once.
Awesome.
Yes. Pipeline goes both ways. The bodybuilding into trolling, well, yeah, farm.
That's awesome. I do have one final question. I did
Yeah,
want to
sure.
ask, um, just in terms of everything you've mentioned so far, how do you think we create an ideal online landscape? And what do you think a world like that looks like? Like, is there anything that you wish would change?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not like a technologist or anything like that. I did an interview about like 10 years ago where I said, look, like everything is gamified and we need to like find a way to gamify getting offline
Mm.
and like incentivize people to feel good about using stuff less. And then there was a while where people were like, you should make commercial campaigns and like online marketing. I was like, sure, give me money and stuff. And I did some analysis and I said, look, this is actually an example of what I'm talking about. And it was that game, Wordle? Wordle? Do you remember
Oh,
Wordle?
yeah.
Mm,
Well, Wordle was like an example of something where you could only do it once a day. So once you did it, it was over, you know?
mm,
And before the New York Times bought it and you could do archival Wordle and like, like 50 Wordles or whatever, it
Hmm.
was just a thing. You did it once, it took 5 minutes, you did it with all your friends. It was like communal, it was a global communal thing, which is interesting too. And then it was over.
mm,
And it felt kind of like right and good
Yeah.
for something to have a built-in kind of like limit, you know? And I think that's the sort of thing that we kind of like need more of. And I mean, you can just see it. I got a ad today, like, oh, this is like a little box. You put your phone in and you set the timer and you can never take it out. And I have a limit on like how much I can use Instagram. And literally, it's like you've used up all your Instagram today. And then I'm like,
mm.
ignore. Like
Yeah.
literally every
Yeah.
single time, like ignore. you know.
Yeah.
Mm.
And I had an app for a while called OneSec, which like you open up an app and then it's like freezes and then it's like take a deep breath and then and then it's like two options. It's like really big. It's like I do not want to use Instagram right now. I do not want to use Tinder right now. I do not want to use eBay right now. And there's a little tiny one. It's like take me to eBay, And then after that, it would be like, why are you using Tinder right now? And then you're like, I'm bored, I am lonely, I am pathetic, and and then you can finally use the app. And
That's
it
so
kind of
funny.
kind of worked for a while, but then I was like, I'm paying for this. Like this is stupid. Like I can just have willpower. And I think that was actually part of my mind being like, you need to get rid of this. You're not using it enough. You're not using Tinder enough. So I mean, I don't know. We just need to find ways to like incentivize and gamify being offline. And I think
Mm.
whoever can figure that out will make like billions of dollars. Whoever can actually make profit off of making people feel good about not using something, like I don't know how that works. Like I said, I'm not an inventor or whatever, but whoever can figure that thing out will be so successful and will hopefully change kind of some of our attitudes about um this behavior. I don't know. I mean, what do you guys think? Do you think like the way we live our lives now is sustainable? I mean, probably, but like, I don't know. I mean, we're all mental. I mean, humans are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think we're all
Yeah.
psychotic, but I mean, going off what you said, I agree with you, but I think that I don't know, just listening to you talk, I was like, okay, so then also I'm thinking about when Instagram was like a chronological feed and I could scroll to like the top of it and be done. And to me,
Mhm.
that was like, okay, I can get off. Sure, I can go back on and be like, anything new? Is there anything new here? But like, it still felt like there was like an end to it. And I
Yeah,
think
now
that
it's chaos.
like, what'd you say?
Yeah.
Now it's chaos.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
And I
on
think that
purpose.
it's
Yeah.
like, yeah, they did it on purpose to make us addicted. And I think the only solution there is like finding people to rebuild the structures but do it right. But it's very, very difficult to get someone who's not gonna just turn it back into whatever it is now.
That's gonna make the
Yeah.
most money.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Yeah.
what'd you say, Samira?
I just said, yeah, someone who's gonna turn it into something that'll make the most money. But
Right,
yeah.
exactly. That's the real trick. How do you make money off of limiting, off of how do you incentivize de-incentivizing the dopamine hit? Like
Yeah.
that's the trick. I mean, people have been trying to do Web3 for like 6 or 7 years now. It hasn't really fully caught on. It's a little bit too like techy and wonky right now. And that theoretically is supposed to like take you off the platforms, but give you content that you want and make you money.
Mm,
Like the idea of Web3 is that like you're gonna be like freed from these platforms, kind of have your own platform. Content is going to come to you that you choose and want, and you're making money off of it. So I think when they figure that out, that could be kind of what I'm talking about. But it seems
Yeah.
mm,
really like techy, right? It seems really tech and crypto based right now, and not like
yeah,
very
I just like was looking at it.
user minded.
I
Um,
do think like the whole because there was at least I don't know if everyone was experiencing this at the same time or if it was just us, but we were like getting on NeoCities and trying to just like have blogs and our friends have blogs and just like link to each other's blogs. Our ideal at the time when we were using it a lot was like, oh, let's put an update feed where anytime someone updates their blog, we can make a feed and then just know and then that's it and that's all we need.
Yeah.
But
how'd that go?
it everyone stopped using it.
Yeah.
Correct,
And
correct.
Yeah.
that's, yeah.
Like the
But it was
reason,
so fun and I loved it. I think if everyone else kept using it, I would have kept using it. It's just that everyone stopped updating and I was like, damn, I'm alone
yeah.
here and now I have no one to talk to.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
guess what? Everyone else is like, well, if everyone else keeps using it, I'll use it. Like your mentality is the mentality that
Yeah.
keeps us
Yeah.
enslaved to all these platforms. And by the way, your mentality is also my mentality. Like, like I have a website. Like I haven't put anything up about the code on it. I don't update the blog connected to the website being like, I'm shooting my movie today. Here's me putting some pics and here's like some diary type entry. I could do that. I probably should do that. That's like a way of freeing yourself from like the kind of feudalistic landscape of all these like platforms and stuff. But the reason the platforms are so successfully enslaving us is because there's two things, right? You already have everyone you know there, and the user interface and the way you use it is completely easy.
Hmm.
Mhm.
It actually exploits the way that the phone works and stuff. And probably there are many blogging platforms now that do the same thing where it's you could just easily upload stuff. You don't have to HTML, you don't have to
Mhm.
craft anything. But for whatever reason, like, these things don't catch on until they catch on, and then it's like you don't even remember what the old thing was like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So someone will figure it out, hopefully, and
Mhm.
you'll all be frolicking in the field and enjoying the snow and the daisies and honestly, the next thing that'll change everything is just once there's no more device. Once the device is in your mind, I'm not saying this is a good thing. I'm not saying it's good at all. But see, I'm just saying like we're all psycho and we all adapt to this stuff. So once the device is in your mind, like it'll just come like this, what we're in right now, like the last 30 years or whatever, completely transitional moment. Just completely
Mhm.
transitional. Like having something like in your hand outside of your body will seem like completely hilarious to someone like 60 years from now. They'll be
Mhm.
like, that seems really burdensome. Like your hand, like everyone
Like
must
you
have
have
had
to put that in your
You have
pocket.
to
everyone
hold
must have had
it.
cramps in their hand. Now I use my hands for all the sorts of fun stuff I'm doing because the device is in my eyeball, my brain. Oh my, yeah, I can be fully Italian now if I want. You Anyway, well, thanks for having me on, guys.
Yeah, thanks
Yeah.
so much for
Thank you
coming
so
on. This
much
was
for
a
coming
lovely
on.
conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah, my pleasure. I hope anyone's listening, has if they can check out my work online. So
Yes,
look
guys,
up
go
my
check
name.
that. Go
My
freaking
name.
check that out right
Check
now.
it
Yep.
out.
Yeah, put some
Um,
respect on my name and just look that up online. And there's movies out there that, should be fun enough.
we do have one more thing.
Okay, go ahead. Is it like a thing you do with every guest?
No, like totally
Oh,
not or anything
No,
like
this is
oh,
that.
just
okay.
for you. This is
Yeah,
special.
we're just we wrote this for you. We thought you would like it a lot, just based on your interest and stuff. If you
Oh
could
my
just
God,
like
it's a
repeat
surprise.
Oh,
this.
I really hate surprise.
we both said
Well, we
it.
did it at the same time.
I know, that's
Oh
freaky.
wow, you sent it. Oh yeah, here we
Yep.
go. I state your name. Okay, I, Eugene Kotlyarenko, hereby request Josh Ovi for collaboration with the Internet is Dead podcast. Please, Josh, be a guest on the podcast. Well, why would it say we miss you? Like, I'm supposed to be
Like
on
all of
it too?
us
No,
miss
like
you.
we miss, yeah,
Oh
we
yeah,
Like
miss
yeah,
you.
the
Josh.
internet misses you.
Well, okay. Oh yeah, the internet. Yeah, yeah, sure, sure.
Mm.
We all of us here on the internet, we miss you, buddy. We want you back. We want you making great art, great movies, great stuff that only you can do. You are one of a kind. You are such a unique spirit. You're such a unique artist, and we need your voice. We need your sensitivity. We need your sense of humor. We miss it. No pressure. If you
Yeah, if there's
you-
anything, we're not putting pressure on you.
Yes.
If
and
there's anything we don't want to do.
We're
if you
chill.
need, and if you need any help, you can always hit me up. And if you want to talk about any things on your mind, and it's like no work required, because I've just been on the show. You don't have to do anything. You just sit here and talk. It's pretty easy, and then you can tease out some ideas. Like you could have a laugh. It's all really nice. So if that's something you even crosses your mind, just do it. Okay. And I'm gonna text you right now. I'm gonna text you after this.
Dude.
Oh,
Okay.
And
Just
that's
say hi.
fucking amazing.
That's
That was
perfect.
I'm not
that
gonna
was
text.
great.
No, I'm not gonna text him about the show. I'm just gonna text him like, "Hey, how are you doing?"
yeah.
Yeah,
Just like a little
sure.
catch
Check
up.
in on
Yeah.
him.
And he's on my
Make
mind
sure
right
he's
now.
okay.
And whenever Josh's on my mind, I just want to check in and
Yeah.
Yeah.
see what's up with
No,
him.
Check in
I
on your friends, everybody.
this is
I don't mean it like that. I don't mean it like that. I don't mean like I'm checking up on him. I'm
that
just
reminds me of the semicolon tattoo when someone says that. When someone's like checking on your friends, I'm like, oh, let me tattoo a semicolon on my wrist.
I
You
just
know what I
mean
mean?
like I miss Josh and I haven't talked to him in a while. So like, what's up with him? That's all I mean.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that was probably our best request so far. That's
I
actually
think
our
so.
50th episode request.
Oh wow.
So happy
Woo!
50th,
Oh, what do you mean?
everyone.
Your 50th request to get Josh on the show?
Yeah.
Yep.
I said you do this with every guest.
I
and you're
hope
like,
you like us. I
Yep.
hope
Oh,
you
you
like
guys-
us so
you
much.
guys- you guys lied to me. Okay, I officially revoke my appearance and
Yeah, no, we'll delete this
you
afterwards.
don't post this at all.
Yeah.
You guys
No, it's not being
lied.
recorded or anything. So
And I
Well,
just want to say that Josh could just do us a fucking favor and tell us yes or no. He could just tell us yes or no. Because guess what? I want to move on to bigger and better things like Dasha Nikrasova. That's what I want to do.
yeah.
That's the sort of attitude that's not gonna get you Josh in this show.
Yeah.
Josh
Yeah.
could
You
just
don't-
tell us you need to chill out. And we all appreciate the dedication and just see what happens. Let life unfold.
Yeah.
But,
No, we're chill.
Yeah, no, I'm
about
not
it.
even attached to the outcome. though.
right,
we're
right,
chill
right.
about it.
You're
I'm, like, super
process
chill.
oriented. Yeah, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's about the journey, not the destination.
Yeah, I've been reading the Bhagavad Gita like every day.
Okay, super. Well, with that, I gotta go. But thanks, guys.
Cool.
Thank you so much
Thanks
for
for coming
coming
on.
on.
It was super fun.